So I'm going to ask now the fantastic Winifred to introduce herself and also give us a few reflections on the student panel and the summit that we just had at the University of Bedfordshire a few weeks ago. Winifred.
So thank you very much, Alistair, for that introduction. As Alistair has said, my name is Winifred Soribe. I completed my PhD in entrepreneurial finance from the University of Bedfordshire, and myself, I was a member of the 2022 student panel. I completed my PhD, and Alistair invited me to join the team that would run the 2024 student panel. Now, for the 2024 student panel, I was the consultant director. And so that meant I facilitated, I was part of the team that facilitated the panel discussions up until the final summit, which was held on the 5th of November at the University of Bedfordshire. Now, I'm a speaker, I'm an accountant, and I am also a consultant. Now, this is our student panel for 2024. And what is the student panel? The student panel is a group of PhD students from all the 8-member universities within the Oxford to Cambridge region. And normally, we will have one person per university. Now, starting from my left here, I have Piers Riley. Piers Riley is from Anglia Ruskin University. His research is focused on local government, and he's looking at how to make improvements from a sustainability perspective within the Essex area. Next to him is Ankita Depnath from Cranfield University. Her research is focused on sustainability. Next is Mitali Katush. She is from Oxford Brookes University. Her research is on fashion. Next is Sam. Sam is from the Open University. Her research is focused on ethical design, and she also works in a bank. In the middle is Alistair, the chairman of the Arc Universities Group. Next to him is Gurpreet Singh. Now, Gurpreet is from Buckinghamshire New University, and his research is on fashion sustainability. Next is Nicole Mfofo. She is from the University of Oxford. Her research is on translational health, and she works with the NHS. Next is Lanita Thompson. She's from the University of Bedfordshire. Her research is on how to get adolescents more active within the area. And finally, Mike Walters from Cranfield University, and his research is on soil topography. So we have a wide range of disciplines within the panel for this year. So these were the student panelist members for 2024. And they all came to the University of Bedfordshire on the 5th of November for our first ever in-person summit. And what this really provided was an opportunity for PhD students within the region to come together, to connect, and to share ideas on what the future of the region should look like. And sort of tapping into what Andy Brown, Councillor Andy Brown, said about investing into the next generation, that is what you see here. You see a wide range of disciplines. And one of the key things in preparations for the summit is registrations. We had to close registrations almost 2 weeks before the event, or even earlier than that, because we had such a significant interest. Over 70 people registered. Almost 50 people turned up on that day. So what it's telling us is there is interest for this kind of summit gathering to engage discussions amongst PhD researchers within the area. Now, on the 5th of November, on the day of the summit, we started off with, what are your future aspirations? And what you see is, unlike the traditional PhD route where you do a PhD and you stay in academia, there is a change, and more people are thinking about going into industry. And so it's good to see that there is support for more university and industry collaborations. But also what you see is more people want to spin their research into a company. And within the region, outside of Oxford and Cambridge and perhaps Cranfield, a lot of the other universities do not necessarily have the right support to help PhD students be able to spin research into potential companies. So it's providing more support for that to happen, whether it's in terms of capital, like what Rachel has highlighted here, the need for more capital to support startups to eventually scale up. Now, we also asked the question at the start of the day, how are you feeling in one word about the future? And it was quite promising to see people were quite positive. You can see very positive words there: hopeful, optimistic, happy, curious. But also, we shouldn't ignore the conflicted, anxious, and other sort of negatives there. But overall, people were quite interested, quite positive at the start of the event on the 5th. Now, this is a video summary of what the day was like, and you'd see different people, speakers, both attendees, share their own perception on what the day was like. What we're doing today is to attract PhD students from all the universities within the Oxford to Cambridge region, and it's to share their views on what the future of the region should be like.
It's a safe environment. It allows students and the planners and stakeholders here today to express views in a different environment where they can take risks, they can be a bit more imaginative, and the key players in the supercluster will hear things they haven't heard before.
We've got 8 or 9 universities across this region that are creating all of those brilliant, young, talented people that are coming out and going into those businesses. So we've got that potential. We've got the universities which can power those businesses and drive that growth and really support the economic potential of the country.
One of the things that we need to do as a project is make sure seldom heard voices have their voice heard and their views incorporated into a major infrastructure project. And that's precisely the value that you get from a session like today.
I think we're not afraid. We have nothing to lose. We can speak quite openly about what we think. And sometimes that criticality is quite important for people to hear, especially when they are launching such a giant initiative.
I think it's been invaluable. Everyone in this conversation has listened to one another and reaches a consensus point. So I think some of the ideas have been really well received, and others it's right to challenge.
It is giving future to the PhD students, They're giving the platform, because I, as a PhD student, I know how to do research, but I don't know what to do with that research. So they're giving that answer to the PhD students. It's fabulous.
By bringing together a student panel, what we're able to do is have really great access to the knowledge and information and expectations of our universities across the region. And those students are really important. Many of them have life experiences outside of this region, international comparisons, that when they bring them to us, they can talk about how it feels to live and work in this region and what they might need to remain here compared to making choices to live elsewhere in the world.
What you want is the perspective of the people who are coming in, the newer generation, the more innovative ideas that we have as students to come in and bring fresh blood to an industry that might be experiencing stagnation. And as a student panel, we can bring that change.
So that was a summary of the summit that we had on the 5th of November at the University of Bedfordshire. Now, on that day as well, we had a panel discussion that was led by Alistair Fitt. And what he asked of each of the student panel from each of the member university was, what was their acts of government. And what I've done is to summarize that in 5 key themes, with the first being reliable and affordable transport. A lot of, all the other speakers have highlighted the need for more reliable, one, but also affordable transport within the area to communicate the different towns and cities together, and to also help young researchers be able to move from one place to the other. The next is support with high cost of living, which was very important, and it sort of underpins this affordability of transport. What you see is cost of, especially if you stay in Oxford or Cambridge, the cost of living there is high. We had several of our PhD student panelists stay there and sort of, raise the concerns of how expensive it is becoming for younger researchers and students to stay in those places. Now, next was environmental sustainability, and this, again, was a very strong theme, thinking about the next generation and how we can leave a better and safer environment for them. Next was economic opportunity and talent retention, and this is, again, underpinned by transport. The fact that it's quite expensive, again, to stay in some of the places like Oxford and Cambridge where there is ample economic opportunities. It's a bit expensive for young researchers and PhD students to stay there. But with good connectivity, people are able to live in other places, towns and cities like Bedford, Luton, Milton Keynes, and be able to travel into these other bigger cities for work. And also the opportunity for talent retention, being able to attract, but to also keep the talents that we're producing within the region is also something that came across quite strongly. Community development, and this really just entails being supportive of people around. Now, we know that there is a growing trend of loneliness, and one thing good travel infrastructure is able to provide is that we can move around to visit family members that might be living alone and things like that. But beyond that, it's also, when you think about a traditional PhD journey, I think about my own PhD journey. It's a very lonely process, and especially it's been aggravated since the pandemic. So even if in most universities you will have a PhD office, a lot of PhD students do not really come in again since the pandemic because a lot of the trainings are done online. Now that simply means it's a much more lonely process than it used to be. And one of the feedback that came across on the 5th of November is how amazing it was to meet other PhD researchers in person. That sense of community that was provided by summits like this was really, really helpful. And I'm sure those from the feedback that we've received so far, the attendees found it very, very useful. So this serves as a summary of what we've done so far, the Arc Universities group has done by way of the student panel, and I'm going to hand over to Alistair Fitt to conclude.
Okay, well, thank you, Winifred. That was fantastic. And I've just got one reflection because we're out of time. A lot of the things we've been discussing this morning and a lot of things that this region could produce are those things, and that's what our young people and our students want. So I think that is a very good confluence. As we go to lunch, can I just ask you to thank Winifred again? Thank you, Winifred.